If in the West we were organising a welcome home dinner like this, planning would probably have begun sometime in early January, and invitations would have been sent out. There would have been plannings all different times, and the event would eventually happen in October. The fact that I remember sitting with Sherlyn on Monday in Shanghai in the lounge waiting to board our flight, and Sherlyn saying, "Well, do you want to do it on Friday or Sunday?" They're asking, and I said, you know, that would be wonderful to do this. So how you put this on, I just don't know, but I should know now that Zhejiang is just a wonderful. It's a place that makes things happen, and that spirit is fantastic. Sherry, wonderful to see you here. We miss Dr. Chan, but please send him our love and best wishes to it. This welcome home dinner has its roots in the last one. And I was reminded of this. I write my blogs, and the last blog that I always write is the welcome home dinner blog from the event. I think this is the 5th welcome home dinner that you kindly put on for us. And last year's was very significant. Firstly, there was some wise advice, I think, from Dr. Chan telling us that, and Dr. Zhou, who were telling us that I was getting a bit older, and I really shouldn't be walking these long distances, and perhaps I ought to do some shorter distances. No. Peter made another suggestion. Peter made a suggestion of saying, if you're walking for peace, which of course I am, and we are, then isn't it better that 1,000 people walk, I think you actually said 100 people walk 10 kilometres, than one person walks 1,000 kilometres. Then we had Mr. Yao, who was also at that event, and he stood up and said, well, listen, I've got an idea for a shorter walk. Why don't you walk from Beijing to Kaofeidian in Hebei province, and we'll give some money to set up some scholarships. Now, basically, I just want to kind of reassure you in preparing for you giving me any advice this year, that we followed every single bit of that advice, and it turned out to be our most successful walk ever in terms of funds raised. Now, normally whenever I sort of talk about the funds raised, I say a number and then Sherlyn, you know, corrects me because she goes down to the single yen, or because so many people are being generous. But Sherlyn, what was the final sum? Are we able to say that?
Yes, 3,000. No, let me see.
This is okay. We'll come back to that in just a second. But it was roughly about 340 to 350,000 pounds. It was extraordinary. Over 350,000 pounds. So it's extraordinary. And many of the people in this room donated generously to that. And we want to thank you so much. Yes, it was good. Give yourselves a round of applause. And the talk for that was that 2 years ago we visited a college called Kaofeidian Vocational College. And Vocational College is, as you would imagine, where people go to learn core skills which are essential for our society. So to be mechanics, to be plumbers, to be bricklayers, all the things that are absolutely essential, electricians, but also some of the professions, such as there's a teaching school there for teachers, and there's a very, very good nursing school there as well. And this is being developed. And the fees don't sound a great deal, but it reminds us that actually China in parts still has a great deal of poverty in some parts of, in fairness, as there is in the UK as well. But the fees were about 1,000 yen per year, 10,000 yen per year, so about £1,000 per year for 3 years. And that was just too much for some people to be able to do that. So through the funds which were raised, around about 250,000 pounds of that will be going to provide scholarships for some of the young people to get those vocational skills that they need to get a job for them and their families. And I have to say that one of the most wonderful moments of the entire walk was right at the end. Shirley walked and I walked in, and we were greeted by the first recipients of these scholarship funds, which have been raised. I mean, we'd only started walking. They must have had a lot of confidence we were going to finish, because we had 5 students who were going to be studying nursing at the school. And what I was really impressed with was that 4 of them, no member of their family had ever been to college before. And I thought, this is fantastic, because most of us in this room have been fortunate. If we've been fortunate in life, probably we owe much of it to education. It's a great game changer in life and in prosperity. So we're very passionate about that, and that was a great moment to end. But it was a very special journey for another reason, and that was that normally, you will recall that Shirley's role is celebrated in that it is to go ahead and plan the way and to stay behind and pay the bills. So she does this on all my walks, and she's normally in a car disappearing off 50 miles up the road, and or staying behind to sort things out as I go. And so we never do the walks together. But this time, because we had some great support from young people, Shirley was able to join me. And I thought, she joined me for the first day, and I thought, I don't think she's going to make another day. Do you know, she not only made the next day, but the next day, and walked the entire 258 kilometers. And how that transformed it, and I think there are 2 ways in which this walk was transformed. The first one was Peter's suggestion, because we were able to share it with over 1,000 young people, hundreds of young people who joined us on the walk. They came out and joined us on different. Many of them had never walked more than 5 or 10 kilometers, and we were kind of walking with them to 25 and 30 kilometers. But they were absolutely fantastic young people from this college who came and walked with us on each day. But the other thing was that because Shirley was there, I was able to speak to some of the people along the way. In fact, I started getting really carried away with it, because normally I had to wait for, on my previous walk in China, I had to wait for when Shirley was around and then see if there was anybody to talk to. But this time, because we were together, we could talk to people along the way. So we had hundreds of conversations, and those conversations, many of them are captured in our blogs. But I just want to pull out a couple, if I can, which one of the first ones is, and one of the things which is good advice when you're walking, especially when you're older. Young people won't understand this. Is if there's a loo, you never walk past a loo. Stop at every one, because you can be absolutely sure that half a kilometre beyond, you wish that you had. So we were walking on, and we saw this very nice building that was a village, the type of village you'll be familiar with. And so we marched into the village and ended up walking through the office, and a man looked a little bit surprised to see us. And then some of the team that were with us started getting a bit nervous and started talking amongst themselves. And I said, what's the problem? So she went to find out. She said, we're in the party secretary's office. It's a party secretary's office. And I kind of thought, well, what's the problem with that? But this was quite a challenge. So we initially, he came out, and he was initially a little bit worried. And then Shirley did an absolutely brilliant move. She went onto her iPhone and she pulled out off YouTube some footage of Chairman Xi in Parliament, addressing Parliament, where he was very kind of mentioning my previous walk. And so she then presents this, Of course, at that point, the entire atmosphere changed. Not only could we have had a visit to the loo, we could have had a shower, we could have had a meal, and the whole thing changed. But also, I think, what was the interesting thing was, here was somebody who is a committed member of the Conservative Party. I'm sorry if that causes some people an offence, but I joined it 40 years ago, and I'm a very committed member of that political party. I don't claim that we have all the answers, but I'm very loyal to it. And I got talking to the party secretary from the Communist Party, and after a little while, I suddenly realised, you know, everything that I felt about the Conservative Party, the opportunities that it had given me in life, you know, how proud I felt of the record that it had in what it was doing for the people, was exactly how he felt about the Communist Party and what it was doing for its people. So we then started relaxing, and before long they were trying to drag us away from comparing notes, because I said I'd also served as a deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. Well, at this point, you know, if you know, I thought I was going to get my shoes polished. There was such a level of support. But we talked about you know, how people become members of the party, and I think Shirley even said a lot of it she didn't know before about how they had worked together and how they brought people in, and if they were the good people in the village, then they could come and put in an application. They would then be interviewed. They would then be put on probation for a year and tested out. And I thought, of course, this seems very sort of strict. I said, no. I said, this is exactly what we used to do with people who wanted to be candidates for the Conservative Party. If you wanted to stand for Parliament, that's exactly what we would do. We would, you know, make sure we took up references. We'd check your record. You'd have to have worked very hard in the local community, and yes, we'd watch what you did over that time. So I think it was just an interesting little example that I give you of when we actually find common ground, even sometimes the furthest distances there can be between, you know, a Conservative Party member and a Communist Party secretary can actually be bridged. Leads me to my second example. We were walking towards to try and get our first 100 kilometers. Now, Shirley knows that when this becomes a bit of an obsession for me, because I'm watching my pedometer, and I don't want to walk, you know, a footstep further than 100 kilometers. I don't want to do one step short or one step. I just want to finish at 100 kilometers. Milestones are very important when you're walking. And so it was 100 kilometers, and I said, I'm not walking any further, so you can tell me that there's a service station somewhere down where it's easier to park and everything. I said, no, I'm going to stop at 100 kilometers. And so we stopped, we were walking down a canal in her bay, and we came, and I was watching my watch, and there was this little bridge, tiny little bridge, that looked very shaky, as if it wouldn't really take somebody of my weight, crossing the canal. And we walked across the canal and onto the other side, and a man greeted us, and he told Shirley, he said, this is my bridge. I said, wow, what? I said, this is your bridge? He said, yes. He said, I built it in 1996 because I have a chicken farm on the other side of the canal, and I sell my chicken produce and eggs on this side at a store. And so rather than going all the way around, I built my bridge. I said, well, that's fantastic. I said, have you built any bridges before? He said, no. I said, and it stood for over 20 years. I said, this is quite something. So he stood and prepared this bridge, and he was very proud. And I said, do we have to pay anything to cross it? Thinking this is China, and I know enterprise goes with the blood, and I was expecting to be told that I had to buy a couple of chickens or some eggs at the other end. He said, no. He says it's open for anyone to cross. He said, especially strangers. And I thought, wow, isn't that what a lovely kind of thought, that normally you would be kind of, I don't want to say that in some countries that we've walked through, there might be barbed wire and locks and trespassers will be prosecuted, signs in different places, but this was just open for anybody who needed it. And I walked across, and he was very happy about this. He went and got his family and his grandson, and they wanted to have a photograph by the bridge with his Westerner who crossed it. And then I said to him, just so I can mention this in my blog, can you ask him what this bridge is called? And he came back, he said, it's called Number 9 Bridge. Number 9. I said, that's not a very nice name for it. And he said through Shirley, he said, well, can you think of a better name? And I said, yes. I said, what about Ingwa Chungwa Yoha Bridge? UK-China Friendship Bridge. And he said, oh, thumbs up, great, universal language. And he said that would be a great idea. I said, well, we'll have to have a ceremony. And so we hastily put together a ceremony, and Shirley wrote on it that this was the Ingwa Chungwa Yoha Bridge in Hebei province. And we took our pictures and then went on our way. But again, it was a great example just about how, in many ways, the purpose of what we were doing in our walks was all about trying to build bridges. So often in our world today, people are building walls between communities and between people, and we need more people to build bridges. And so, the more Ingwa Chungwa Yoha bridges there are in the world. Mark, please come and join us.
Just a few minutes.
Oh, just a few minutes. All right, very good. Then we should do that. Someone just asked me a question, and with this I'll finish and hand over to Shirley. And it said, just out of interest, where did the title "Walk Your Dream" come from? That's a great question, and that takes me back 11 years, 10 years, 9 years. Getting old. 9 years. And I'm on Tyneside. We have a friend here from Tyneside, and I've been asked to head up a charity for disadvantaged young people, which is one of those nice British ways in which we try to give nice names to capture things. But effectively what this meant was young people who'd been involved in drugs, who had been in care, local authority care, or in prison. And the idea of this charity was to try and give them a second chance in life, trying to get them back on track, see if they could do something. And I was invited to come and give them a talk about how to apply for a job. When I turned up at this, on the quayside in Newcastle, to give this talk, and these young people couldn't have looked less interested in me turning up and giving them a lecture. And so I said to them, listen, I don't want to waste your time for 2 hours. And I said, I don't want to waste my time for 2 hours. I said, so can I just do 2 questions for you? And then 10 minutes is done, you can go off and have a smoke or whatever you want to do, and I'll go on my way. I said, just 2 questions, sit up straight, I'm going to ask these 2 questions. And the 2 questions which I asked were, first of all, what is your dream? And we went around the room, and I was kind of thinking that all the boys would want to be Alan Shearer or Paul Gascoigne, a footballer, and all the girls would want to be Cheryl Cole. These were 2 local heroes from our kind of community. But they weren't. They were very specific. One of them wanted to be an animator in Disneyland. Another one wanted to be a stonemason. Another one wanted to be a film producer. I think, where do these dreams come from? They're just very unique. And I said, this is fantastic. I said, having told me your dream, here's the last one. I said, we're a few minutes and you can now go on your way. What have you done about it today? And I said, what have you done about it today? Nothing. And then one of them said, well, I've had a tough life. My brother was beating me up, and I haven't got anywhere to live. And I said, no. I said, I didn't ask you about that. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, but my question was, you told me you wanted to be a film producer, and all I asked you was, what have you done about it today? He said, nothing. I said, fine. So he said, you've done nothing about it. You have a dream, but you've done nothing about it. And I went around, and everybody said no. And I said, well, listen, I've now got an hour free in my diary. if you want to hang around and just do one thing, one telephone call, visit one website, fill out a form, do anything to take one step towards your dream, then I'm happy to stay here and do it. And to my amazement, and to the charity's amazement, they all stayed. And we had a fantastic time. In fact, I stayed for 2.5 hours. And at the end of it, we were getting on rather well. And as they were about to go, they said, by the way, you haven't told us your dream. I said, well, my dream was to be initially a member of Parliament. That's what my dream was. I said, well, yeah, but you've done that. I've been privileged enough to be in the House of Commons and now in the House of Lords. And I said, I have done that. And they said, but what's your dream now? I said, well, actually, when I was your age, I used to have a map on my bedroom wall. And the map was of the world. And I said, I used to go to sleep at night thinking, could you actually walk all the way around the world? And I said, this was my dream, to walk around the world. And they said, one of the other ones sort of popped up and said, so what have you done about it today? I said, well, listen, I said, I'm very busy, you know. I said, I've got to do it. And then Sean, the one who I picked on, he said, whoa, hang on, I didn't ask you for excuses. He said, I just asked you what your dream was. And what have you done about it today? I said, nothing. He said, fine. I said, hey, what about this? I said, what a bit. I said, I'm a bit overweight. What if I was to set off on a walk from Holy Island, which is a beautiful part of Northumberland, to Durham, 100 miles, and try and raise money for you to pursue your dream, and in do so, take the first steps on my dream, walking my dream. The deal was done, and I ended up doing the walk, and then that grew and grew, and it grew into the walk which I then did from Olympia in Greece, through which I met Shirley. And you know, you think often some crazy things, you know, about dreams that we have, and we think, you know, we're getting older, no, we haven't got time for them. You know, people who dreamed of getting a university degree and they say, oh, now I'm too old, or you know, people who just had a dream. Say, well, we only get one shot at life. Let's have a go at it. And you've got no idea where it will take you. Had I not had that conversation, I would not be standing here. I would not be with Shirley. So, pursue your dreams. Do something today to walk your dream, because you've got no idea where it might lead you. Thank you.
我们今天很高兴，很荣幸。